Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio, Rural Radio 147. We're going to talk right now about some feeding examples on the ranch, and you need to maybe get your head wrapped around canola meal. We are joined right now by Dwayne Summach. He is a livestock and feed extension specialist with Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture. Dwayne, great to chat with you.
Thanks for inviting me on, Sean. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, recently you spoke at the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Annual General Meeting, talking about, it was entitled Continuing Chronicle of Canola Meal Supplementation at Circle Y. So talk about what the presentation was about and what some of the message was to some of the producers there.
So the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Association undertook a ADOPT project, or agricultural demonstration of practices and technologies. And that project occurred at a couple different locations. One was the Circle Y Ranch down at Big Beaver. The other was the Cedar Lee Ranch at Hodgeville. And I reported on that last year to them. Last year was kind of the first year. And during that report, then somebody went, well, we need to do this ongoing. And so we continued it again this year. We ran into a little bit of trouble at Hodgeville. It was a little bit drier and they didn't have the grass growth. And so they didn't have the ability to continue on and do it again. So we were down to just the one location. And so that's why it's the continuing chronicles. It's what's the next year of the story. But Michael Burgess at the Circle Y has been supplementing bred heifers at the Circle Y for many years.
Okay.
And so this really just forced them to capture some data and prove to himself why he's been doing this. And so it's about feeding a little bit of canola meal. We're supplementing some protein to some cattle, to the bred heifers as they're grazing dormant native grass pasture there. And we're just feeding them a little bit. We feed it to them every other day. He delivers it mixed with salt so that the salt is used to limit intake. And so the results are actually pretty interesting. A little bit of supplementation goes a long way. And so this year, the results were his bred heifers that didn't receive any canola meal lost about 0.8 of a pound a day. And the cattle that did receive the canola meal gained about 0.8 of a pound a day.
Oh, wow.
So you're getting to be a pretty wide discrepancy. And this is a class of cattle, your bred heifers, you want to be gaining. So it's pretty important, right? But we were feeding at 1.5 kilos every 2 days, which when you do the math, it's probably more than we needed to be feeding them. But I mean, it made quite a difference.
It's interesting here because, one, based on the intended increase to canola crush capacity in a province like Saskatchewan, we're going to have a lot more meal to deal with. Now, we can export that meal, or we can, of course, use it domestically. So there's going to be a supply out there. This is one of the ways that we could be using it. For me, I hear a lot about feeding canola meal to dairy animals. There's marketing campaigns from the Canola Council and when you go to a U.S. dairy show about that. Not as much on the beef side. Is my perception there real?
It's founded.
Okay.
They definitely have targeted the dairy industry, as canola meal is a high quality protein, and the dairy industry buys protein supplement. And so they've recognized that as a targeted industry, a place where it can be fed, and it does a lot of really good things in the dairy. On the beef side, we would feed a lot less, but we got a lot more animals to feed it to. And so, but price has been an issue, right? And on the dairy side, well, price is always still an issue. There's cash flow to deal with it, right? If it makes sense, it can be used. Where on the beef side, sometimes it's just, that's an expense I'm not sure I can justify, but that's part of why we do these types of demonstrations, is to help take the risk out of it and be able to actually capture some numbers. And the numbers on it this year, it was basically the way Michael had it done up. It cost him about $1,350 a ton for his supplementation. Now you can divide that by the 1.5 kilos a day, and or every other day, you can back it up to what the cost per head per day is. But it wasn't little amounts, but when you look at, can we supplement and keep them on pasture for less than we can feed them in the dry lot for, right? And that's where we're going with this.
Do you think, based on a couple of years of experience here in this demonstration, do you think this is a practice that we could see a lot more of going forward in Saskatchewan and across the prairies?
I think it's going to become a tool in the toolbox to help extend the grazing season. It will not be something that we can say, we're going to do this and it's going to take our bred heifers to December 15th. It's going to be one of those tools that we can use. And when it snows, if the snow gets too deep, cattle start grazing. Now we got to move to another one. But it can get us the next 2 or 3 weeks pretty easy. Might even get us an extra 2 months. And so I can see where it's gonna, this is not new technology, right? This is something that producers in the Nebraska Sandhills, this is kind of how they winter their cows, right? Is they get them through on cottonseed milk cake or some type of protein supplement. And so really we're just taking that concept and can we stretch out our grazing season every 2 or 3 weeks we can get, helps us, right? And so is it a strategy that we can use? Absolutely.
Now, you've been doing this for a couple of years. I'm assuming you're going to try year 3, or you'd like to maybe. For you, what unanswered questions do you have? Like, what is there a curiosity that's being scratched here in terms of other things that you'd like to find out about all this?
I think we're starting to get to the place where there's canola meal. Yeah, canola meal work, but would it work even better if we did it blended with corn or barley? Do we need some energy, right? Let's just meet their protein and then give them a little bit of energy. And if we can do that with 2 or 3 pounds of total mixture a day, what does that look like? And it can go a long way.
Great stuff.
You start talking about 35 or 40 cents a supplement, but you can keep them out on the pasture instead. And yeah, you got cost associated with pasture, but it's also a lot less than it is if we put them in the dry lot. Yeah.
Extending that grazing season for sure.
Yeah.
Dwayne, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing what more comes of this technique, because like we said, there's going to be a lot of canola meal on the countryside. So it's going to be accessible.
It's going to double up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dwayne, thanks a lot for joining me.
I appreciate the invitation. It's been a pleasure.